I start my journey with a visit to an old friend and to one of my favourite gardens, Great Dixter in Sussex, which is cared for and owned by Christopher Lloyd, one of our best garden writers and certainly one of our best gardeners at this time. And here you've got this beautiful array of plants and pots, which are so good, and they've changed. I like houses that are surrounded by their garden, and this is a wonderful case because whichever way you turn, you're walking through into more garden, and it must be that whatever window you're looking out of in the house, you see garden. Some of it is more formal than others, but it's always there, and you'll feel that you can go out of one of the several doors and walk straight into something beautiful. I arrive as the yew hedges are being cut. At Great Dixter, this is a big job. When you go there, you will see how very cleverly they have been cut. They're what you call battered, which means the bottom of the hedge is wider than the top. And the reason for this is so that the light really gets to the bottom of the hedge. Because very often you see hedges which are rather bare at their base. Not so at Great Dixter. They're all in prime condition. The joy of returning to gardens that you know quite well, fairly frequently, is that you know what you're going to expect round the corner. And then suddenly something different has been put in.
So now we're coming to the surprise garden.
Yes. I chose to visit it in early September because that was the month that Christo had said his new venture would be looking most exciting, and it surely was. Gosh, what is happening? It's really thrilling coming into this amazing garden on this lovely September morning. Just tell, when did you start it all?
2 years ago, Rosemary. This is the third season.
Yes.
And we really feel that it's nice to have a garden that's at its best late in the season. And autumn has such a beautiful light. It seems a shame, you know, that so many gardeners feel that all they want to do is to cut the plants down by the July even, whereas I think one should go on building up as far as possible.
But then it makes the winter shorter, doesn't it?
Well, yes. And
extend the autumn.
The light is perfect at this time of the year when it's obliging. It's so kind, isn't it?
Well, there's so much to see in this garden. Everything is packed in marvellously. Your dahlias and your verbenas.
Well, the dahlias really do give you brilliance of colour, and you need that as well as good leaves.
Also, the height is so amazing, isn't it? Because presumably this in the winter time is flat.
There's nothing here at all to speak of.
It's all grown.
It's all planted up at the end of May and
Yes.
in June. I mean, some of these things are just annuals, like the castor oil here.
This is a very special castor oil plant, isn't it? Because it's got these amazing coloured seed heads.
That's right. They're rather fun. One has to warn people that sometimes that castor oil is poisonous, but, you know.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Christo, this is what I remember as your rose garden.
Indeed.
And one of the things that reminds me of it are these lovely see-through verbenas.
Well, the garden was gradually changing even then as the
Yes.
verbenas crept in. And the soil here is marvellous for anything else, so why be a slave to roses?
Well,
And then Fergus Garrett came along, my
Yes.
head gardener, and he's got tremendous energy. And I was able to realise my dream of turning. It's very enclosed here, very warm and sheltered. I wanted to turn this into a sort of tropical feeling garden. We all know that we're 51 degrees north of the equator, but it is rather nice to gull oneself for a few months into thinking, well, you know, there might be a tiger in there or a parrot coming over.
But you're lucky having Fergus with all his energy, because it can't be a very minimum upkeep garden.
Well, I think labour-saving gardening is the most boring sort of gardening,
Right,
actually.
and that's the last thing you ever are, is boring.
Well, if people are really keen on their gardens, they don't mind the work involved.
Right.
And it's nothing more complicated than dahlias needing to be lifted in the winter and stored somewhere.
Well, this is a wonderful lesson about the amazing range of colours of these dahlias, and not only the colour, some of the leaves are so pretty, and also the shape of the flowers.
Yes.
You've got to look into them, haven't you? Well, of course, dahlias are not fashionable now.
No, a certain section of the public are snooty about dahlias. They're the ones who want the garden to be in pastel shades or grey and white.
Is that a dart at me?
No, certainly not. You've got a great range of colour, haven't you?
Yes, of course we have. I have certain little areas which I call my Christopher Lloyd places.
I see your hot areas.
Hot areas, yes. I'm getting great pleasure from them.
But I don't want everything, all the dahlias to be hot, and I don't want dahlias all the way. But they mix. People tend to segregate dahlias, and I think they should be mixed in with other material.
Any dahlia gardens. Now, come on, tell me the name of that wonderful pink dahlia over there.
That's Pride of Hempstead.
Pride of Hempstead.
It's a beautiful water lily type decorative dahlia.
It's suddenly very cool amongst the hot colours, and it's amazing how well it actually goes with the reds, isn't it?
Yes, well, you see, I don't want it to be hot all the time.
Good. But I do think you have succeeded absolutely amazingly. It's a real lesson, this garden, in what you can do in the year.
That's a dahlia called orange mullet, and it doesn't grow too tall, so you don't have to stake that one at all. Nice soft orange, don't you think?
It is, and it's.
You're not against orange, I hope.
Oh no, of course not.
Well, I mean, there are so many people.
I nearly wore an orange dress today, and then decided not to.
Well, there are so many gardeners who can't bear orange, and they miss such a lot.
And you're certainly going to bring back cannas into fashion.
Yes. Now look at the way they're treated in the public gardens and parks. No wonder people put off them.
Yes.
There they are, used as dot plants. They can't have any self-respect. They're treated like that.
And these are wonderful because they're grouped together.
That's right, and they're integrated with the foliage, I hope.
I'd love to just have a little rundown of the routine, the programme taking care of it.
Well, I don't think any of this is difficult, really. The cannas, you treat exactly the same as the dahlias.
Yes. Do they die down, the cannas?
Yes, they do. You wait till they've been frosted, in fact, like the dahlias. And then some of the things here are absolutely hardy, and they just have an exotic look. The Paulinia there, for instance, is a tree, basically.
Paulinia is really exciting, isn't it?
Do you grow that in your garden?
Well, we've had a Paulinia there for years, and this summer it is gradually dying off.
Well, they're very quick to start again.
Right, I may...
That one I cut to the ground, and it does about 15 feet in one season.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
The subtropical garden is only in its third summer. By contrast, the long border was created around 1912 by Nathaniel Lloyd, Christo's father, with the help of the celebrated Edwardian architect, Sir Edwin Lutyens.
Well, I hate it when this is called a herbaceous border, for a start, because it isn't. It's much more. It's a mixed border. It's lazy thinking if you put all of one category in one border and all of another. I like to put them so they all help each other in one border, and you get much more variety. And we never have a hollow course like the old herbaceous border. You used to take everything out every fourth year and then split them up and try and get the permanent weeds out. We haven't got any permanent weeds now.
Good.
Well, over the years we got rid of them.
Yes.
I think Lutyens got the proportions very well. The border being one-sided, it still allows the plants to flop over the path. And then you've got 15 feet from front to back of the border itself.
Yes.
Lutyens actually wanted a wall at the back. He was very keen on masonry, as you know, at Hestercombe.
Right. But he's also obviously very keen on yew hedging, isn't he?
Well, that was my father, really. We go on actually reviving and revitalising our borders right into September, when we're moving Michaelmas daisies and chrysanthemums, hardy ones, in from the open ground where they've been growing and just waiting and looking a bit dull all through the summer. Then you give them a really good soak and soak them again after you've replanted them, and they don't mind being treated like that at all. So there are many devices where you can prolong the season, and if you think of autumn as a lovely season, right from the spring or the winter beforehand, and aim at it in all your plantings, then you'll find that your autumn garden, when the weather, after all, is very often nice for relaxing, which it certainly isn't very often in spring, your autumn garden will be a joy, and it'll be an oasis in the middle of a countryside, which is all brown with the post-harvest look, and the trees are still heavy, whereas your garden is lovely to be in, and, you know, everybody will migrate to it and say, oh, aren't you lucky?
We gardeners are lucky because nature makes us such a really generous contribution. I love Great Dixter for its structure and for Christo's planting. In September, parts of his borders were still ablaze with vibrant colours, a lesson I'm determined to take home and copy at Barnsley. I asked him if he felt the Great Dixter as part of the tradition of the English country garden. His answer was typically forthright.
Oh gosh, what do we mean by an English country garden anyway? I mean, that sounds a sort of prissy, rather self-satisfied conception that the English are only too pleased to have themselves. Garden is a garden, and it's stuffed with excitements and good plants and handsome arrangements of them, and whether it looks English or not, I wouldn't care.